Arg, I'm Dan Crenshaw. Can you please respect Israel? Can you please respect the Jewish state in the Middle East? Or you walk the plank? Can you please support a war in Iran? Arg! There be treasure. There be treasure in Israel. There be treasure in APAC. Arg.
A stunning announcement has just been brought to the forefront here to the Trump administration is to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization. This is huge. And being they're calling it a foreign terrorist organization, it really opens up the door for flexible treatment of such problems. Originally the Antifa network was considered a domestic terrorist organization, which then kind of like limits your ability to intervene when it comes to money that goes in and out of foreign countries. So, and we do know that Antifa operates out of other countries, by the way. So it's, so by that was a great move to move that to bump that up. But now, straight out the gate, we've got Muslim Brotherhood being considered and labeled a foreign terrorist organization. Recently, um, there's been a lift of protections when it comes to the Ilan Omar peoples and all that. I guess the Somalian type stuff, what's going on there, because they found out that they were funneling money from the taxpayers out of their states and using it to do really bad things. Just a quick base to touch on when it comes to people like Ilan Omar. She comes from a long line of her family has been well known for the slave trade. They still do that, buy, sell, and trade slaves in that area, and that's something that she's been into for many years. Her family's been into for many years. Uh, they there's a lot of ins and outs when it comes to that, but quickly as I kind of just run through, what's really going on, that Donald Trump is moving ahead with one of the most important national security decisions of his administration, formally designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization. In an interview reported by Just the News, President Trump stated that the final documents are being drawn and that the designation will be done in the strongest and most powerful terms. This is huge, guys, because it really opens the door for them to be able to cut the money flow off that's going. And so, and another thing, I've talked about in other videos, what they're doing in Texas is buying up large plots of land and then building like these compounds where they all sort of like make their own little para-government, para-cities. They'll have an installed like little miniature police department that kind of watches over these big facilities that they've put together. And that's David Koresh couldn't do that. I kind of joked about it, but I was like, David Koresh was like, no, you're not going to do that. And so they don't. Why do they get a gimme? And it- what's going on with these Muslims is not a religion. It's a forced political ideology of extreme takeovers. And I want to show you the tweet that I ran across with talking about these people are misinforming you about what Marjorie Taylor Greene's up to. This is what she wrote. I'll show you here in a second, but it says, for decades, the Muslim Brotherhood has positioned itself as a political or social movement. The framing has allowed it to expand operations across multiple regions through nonprofits, student organizations, and political parties. That's huge. All right. So, however, the Brotherhood's leadership has consistently aligned itself with groups that promote or carry out really terrible acts. And Hamas is a direct offshoot of the Brotherhood, by the way. And senior Brotherhood clerics have openly endorsed suicide bombings, attacks on civilians, and destruction of democratic institutions in the Middle East. In Egypt, Brotherhood leaders supported violent uprisings after the removal of President Mohammed Morsi. Mohammed's a very common name because of the dude who started that whole quote unquote organized religion. You'll get a lot of those. But anyhow, it says that the organization's messaging, fundraising strategies, and long-term planning have all helped shape the ideological foundation of modern Islamic extremism. very huge stuff. Now, you got to admit, this is pretty interesting coming off the heels of having Mom Momdami that recently made an appearance at the White House. And when asked about Trump saying, um, is Trump a fascist? Oh, yeah, he's a fascist right there in front of Trump's face. And Trump kind of laughs it off. I guess he figured it would be better to do that than do like what he did with Zelensky because the media didn't play that very well. And it was hard for him to regain that narrative. So maybe, hopefully, there's a plan behind all this. You heard Mamdani in that interview talk really double speak when it comes to what his plans are for New York and how he's going to deal with, he said, equity when it comes to taxes. There's not very many equitable situations that are in play when it comes to the tax base. And so equitable means, pretty much, I'll decide who gets to be wealthy and who gets to have nothing. So, well, according to your things, but let me show you the some of the stuff going on with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm really upset that it's gotten to this point. Let's see what she's talking about. You can kind of make this out. I've got it expanded as much as possible to where we'll be able to kind of go over some of the text that she put in this tweet here. But this is from her personal twatters or X's. It says here. It says Times claim sources that told them I'm running for president in 2028, which means this is a complete lie, and they made it up because they can't even quote the names of the people who they claim said it. That's not journalism. That's called lying. She says right here, I'm not running for president. I never said I wanted to, and have clearly laughed about it when people would ask her about it. So when they mentioned she'd lie. So it says here, if you fell for those headlines, you're still being lulled every day into psychosis by the political industrial complex that always has an agenda when it does something like this. Running for president requires traveling all over the country, begging for donations all day, every day to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, arguing with political talking points every day to the point of exhaustion, destroying your health, and having no personal life in order to attempt to get enough votes to become president, all to go to work to a system that refuses to fix any of America's problems. The fact that I'd have to go through all that, but would be totally blocked, and most importantly, I'm not the kind of person who is willing to make the deals that must be made in order to be allowed to have this title. Again, I'm not motivated by power and titles, is what she says. The political industrial complex has destroyed our country and will never allow someone like me or you to rise to power and actually solve the crisis that plague all of us. That would go against its business model, by the way. And everything she's saying so far, I agree. We can all see this, especially when it comes to how it works on both sides of the aisle. And I'll keep on with this here. It says, instead of swallowing lies that you are spoon-fed and parroting attack phrases against me in your comments, you all should open your eyes and focus on the real actions and what is actually happening to our country. Are you, and this, she asked here in this tweet, she goes, are you happy with a $38 trillion debt? And the fact that it will only drastically get higher? Are you happy with Social Security? That you won't be able to get full benefits starting in 2033. And most of us will never receive any benefits at all because the Ponzi scheme is collapsing. That's me speaking right there. And it says here, are you happy that Democrats created our healthcare system with Obamacare and tax credits and Republicans refuse to fix it? Are you happy about paying taxes on literally everything and being one of the highest taxed people on earth? And it says, are you worried we might be invaded one day by ignoring the fact that our government already allowed us to be invaded, not only through the southern border, but also constantly handing out legal visas that steal your jobs? It says here too, are you afraid that we might go to war, but ignore the fact that our government already sent us to war to fight foreign countries that cause not only our own problems, but for decades already? It says here, if you are still fighting each other about the shiny objects the political industrial complex blinds you with every day and not paying attention to the damages that have been done and is still being done, the Americans will will never join together to save themselves. And that's part of the whole political scam. That's what, now one could argue, well, MTG tapping out like that's not going to help anything. And I guess maybe I could go hopium on this and say maybe her political aspirations aren't for 2028. Maybe she's got political aspirations a little further out. I don't know. At this point, if we lose the midterms and the Democrats nuke the filibuster and then run through an agenda where it does exactly what James Carville was talking about with packing the Supreme Court 13 or however many justices they can fit on in that room, you know, and Eric Swalwell right now, Fang Fang loving dude, running for governor for California because Newsom's going to be running for president, uh, is openly calling for lackadaisical secure elections by facilitating you the ability to call in your vote. He wants people to be able to call in your vote, not even show. I mean, you've got another lady up there, was it Jocelyn Benson, who wants to have vote by internet and just pick up your phone, download a voting app, and vote on that. Boop. So will we have the ability to even regain any normalcy in our which there are no normalcies in our politics at this point right now, but could we find a way to straighten this out after this midterms completely goes under because everybody's so concerned about not fixing anything? That's going to be the big deal. I don't know where, the Democrats had to borrow $15 billion because they're so far out of money because their money laundering scheme has been sort of somewhat upended with Act Blue and other things. So right now, if the Republican Party if we could just unite and quit being such assholes to each other, quit talking junk to each other, and just get in there and do some real work, we could make a big difference. We've got the best chance right now to do so. And I I think that Trump could do better when it comes to handling how he speaks to other people. If somebody, especially when it comes to what Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't ask for much except for be America first. And I understand foreign policy is a thing when it comes to being president because there's so many ins and outs of the United States and our intertwined crap because of the globalists that you kind of hard to be America first. But I mean, messaging is all about how you intertwine that where people don't get pissed off. But I hope that she doesn't tap it. I hope she can recant her resignation, get her heels dug back in. She's got a lot of support out there. A lot of people don't like her because they were told not to like her. Everybody liked her up until they said not to like her. And there's a lot of people in the comment sections that are that way. Now, I not respect your opinion, but wonder where that's coming from. I mean, it's because and people are fussing that she's. I talked about this in my earlier video that she waited for so many days after this, that, and the other to receive her pension that she can't get until she's like way older, and it's 1% of every year that she was in there. So if it's 5 years, then it's just not much. It's like I was under the impression it was like $7,000 a year, which is like $800 a month or something like that. So it's like, you know, come on, we can work past that. But anyways, uh, yeah. So that's where we're at. Little something there. One other thing that I'll leave us with is I'll show you the tweet about what's going on with Todd Blanche. I'll show you what I saw, and we'll see what happens. This is what I pulled up, and very interested because right now I even heard on Infowars that in Alex is like Todd Blanche is going to indict Ed Martin, and I don't know. Let me expand this a little bit so you can see this real quickly here, because that way you can kind of I'll do this in real time. But this is from Ed Martin's personal Twitter account here. I follow him and I kind of keep up with what's going on. But I saw this and I had to go back and had to look. It says Ed Martin says here it's always difficult to comment on an ongoing investigation, but this dude here, this at Chad Bazile, knows of what he speaks, and this is what it is right here. This is that Chad guy that Martin is talking about. He says the free advice: don't listen to the folks who have no clue how the DOJ works. By confirming where the evidence of Schiff's legal conduct originated. DOJ is investigating their own. DOJ is getting ready to indict Schiff. Ed Martin and Bill Pulte are fine. Schiff needs to lawyer up. And and like I say, Ed Martin confirms this. So I don't know what to make of this, but I'm under the impression that they came at Ed Martin with, like they're going to file criminal charges. But I don't know. Like I said, I talked about this in a morning video I did, but this is what I saw, and I'm just kind of bringing it up in a little more in depth so you can actually see what I'm trying to figure out. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll just have to see what happens, guys. Hopefully it's something good and something fast.
Is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one
For the information that we have
in the files.
in the case file.
Okay.